Hello, beautiful people. So happy to see you. I'm here to do an episode of Be True to You podcast. My name is Robbi. Happy to have you here. It's been a while, and I'm thinking on, what's the topic for the next podcast? And so, I usually just sit and take my time and, feel into it. And so, a lot's been going on in my life. And so I have just wrapped up my 2-year master's program. And so what I wanted to speak to was my experience returning to school at age 54. And so, of course, in life, 2 years can go so fast. But before I get into all of that, I just wanted to welcome any new viewers to this podcast. The intent of Be True to You podcast is to share experience, strength, hope, and wisdom. And so I've had guests on my podcast, and today is a solo podcast. And yeah, like I said, I wanted to talk about my experience of going back to school and returning to school at the age of 54. And so, if you've ever seen that Christmas movie, and it has the young guy running up and down the streets going, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. You know which movie I'm talking about. Um, and at the beginning, he's saying, Oh, I'm going to travel the world and I'll go to college and see what they know there. And then build buildings. And then he ends up staying in his small town. So, anyhow, um, that movie came to mind when I was laughing. I was kind of putting down a couple of little notes here. And so, I've always been a curious person. And so I decided to, take that next step and return to academic studies. And so I'm so relieved. Oh my goodness. So much support provided by the school itself. And then our cute little cohort, we had a group on WhatsApp. And so we supported each other through that as well. And so, I enjoy a good challenge. And, I have to admit, I put off going back to school forever. And I thought, oh, it's just a piece of paper, blah, 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 kind of minimizing it. But, honestly, probably that fear that was deep, deep inside and buried. And so, being honest with myself and, just digging in and finding that courage. Scrounging around all my transcripts from many, many years ago. But, just really having that humility to go back into learner mode as well. And I've always been curious and wanting to learn about different things anyway. So, that was quite smooth in that process. So, I came out of this different for sure, and the opportunity to expand my perspective and learn from doctors and scholars and my cohort as well, very experienced wise cohort that I was able to complete this program with. And when we think about our traditional values and putting those into effect, our foundation that keeps us grounded and centered. And so, I was able to witness that in myself, like the truth of, being honest with myself and, why I'm returning, having that courage, returning to humility, having compassion for myself and for others as well. And accessing that wisdom and acknowledging myself for my experiences and acknowledging others' wisdom. And a huge one for me, I think, was around the value of respect. And for our cohort, for our instructors, the doctors, the ones who are running our program, and also self-respect. And I had participated in a personal development seminar a number of years ago. Um, and everybody was given a song. And it's so funny because my song was Respect, Respect by Aretha Franklin. And that kind of came up too as I was writing my notes. And so many different levels going deeper and deeper and deeper. And, over the years, in addition to academics, I'm always learning about astrology, astronomy, sacred geometry, quantum access, all of those kinds of things. But one that really sticks with me is numerology. And so I'm kind of going on the side here with numerology. And Carrie Samuels provides really good information on numerology. And I still have the paperwork that she had provided. I had taken one of her beginning of the year programs, and how numerology can guide you through each month and through the year. But the package that she gave was really helpful. And I actually have 2 more years left in that package. And so it contained very good information. And it teaches you how to figure out your personal month number and then also your personal year number. And so when I started this program at Royal Roads University, the Masters of Intercultural and International Communication was the best fit for me. And I'm glad that I changed, because initially I was going to go for the small business bachelor's degree or something. I can't remember the name of it. But when I started in 2023, it was my personal month number 8, which is all about ambition. It was telling me to aim for the moon and beyond. And boy, did I. And so the guide in that personal month of number 8 was saying no more playing small and to go beyond your limits. And yeah, I really pushed myself and learned a lot more about myself. And then just continuing on this theme of numerology, 2025, this personal year is a 7. And so for myself, that's about staying centered and really staying grounded and centered amidst all of the changes. So it was really learning to deeply trust myself and the process of my life. And there was also a channeled message that came with the message of the personal year number 7. And in brief, it was saying, trust your path, no matter how windy things get, and you will be divinely guided. And I find numerology is a really good tool. And those messages definitely helped me as I worked my way through this 2-year program. And so over the 2 years, they have the outline and all of the courses and all of that. And so, you build your foundation, you learn about theory and all of that kind of stuff. And, it was kind of dry information at first, but, cool, because we got to learn about different theories and frameworks and how different researchers build on each other's work and all of that. And so for me, it was learning from the academic perspective of how work is published and how the researchers, challenge someone's position or theory and all of those kinds of things. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And then we continued on through that first year exploring different communication methods and skills, which was really interesting. And then we knew at the beginning that as a cohort, we were going to organize an online conference, which is called Intersect. And so by the end of the year, in the first year, I think in 2023, we were organizing the conference. And so I bit back my fear, stepped into my courage, and I offered to be a co-chair of this Intersect conference. And so all of us in the cohort were required to do a presentation, which was really cool. And I think I tried to fit way too much information into my presentation. I was so excited, but it was quite an experience, as presenter, but then also organizing. And I was so happy because I was able to recruit an Indigenous speaker from Canada. And this was like a worldwide conference. We had presenters from all over the world, which was really cool. But I was able to connect with Dr. Merelda Fiddler Potter, and she works at the First Nations University in Saskatchewan. But previously, she was a journalist with CBC. So she came and she did a presentation amongst others. And this was a 2-day online conference. And so it was quite a process, our tasks as a co-chair, were touching base with the other teams who were doing their part, the digital media team and the communications and public relations team, the registration team, all of that. So I learned a lot of new skills there because I've been part of organizing in-person gatherings and those kinds of things. But to do it online, I knew it was going to be a stretch for me. And I think that's why I put my name forward as a co-chair because I wanted to learn and like I'm always, doing my best to make friends with technology. And, doing this podcast, that was kind of stretching my comfort zone as well. And here I am, and how many seasons into this podcast. So, really encourage you to stretch your comfort zone and do things that you normally think that you wouldn't do. And it's a really good learning experience. And so, as co-chairs, we're also required to do a final report at the end. And it was kind of weird because we were assessing everybody in the cohort and how much they actually contributed. And so, we were able to give that honest feedback to the instructor, and everybody did well. I think our cohort, really came together quite well. And, promoting the conference online and LinkedIn and all of the socials, that kind of thing. And so, over the 2 years, doing that conference, organizing, setup, delivering, wrapping it up. We also had the courses. And so by the time we got to communication research, it was like kind of setting the tone for either our final paper or our final project. I was kind of nervous about that. And, I had an idea of what I wanted to present. It was kind of like a continuation of what I had presented at that conference. And I felt like I was kind of like being encouraged to cover cultural appropriation. And of course, that is a serious issue. And it just didn't really like land on me like 100%. And so, as we went through courses through the different parts of the year, as we got to closer to the end of our courses, I'd say maybe summertime, last fall, I knew I wanted to continue on. And so I proposed to the instructor when we got to the final part of our program that I wanted to do a podcast, and it was approved, and I was so happy. And I think I've posted full podcasts for my three guests that agreed to support me in my research project. And so that was an experience for sure. And I'm so grateful to Elder Jerry Ullman. And we had some good discussions preparing for the podcast. And I was saying to him, I still trying to figure out why I decided to go back to school. And I may have mentioned this in a previous podcast before, but his response in his wise elderly way had said, "You're on a vision quest." And I'm like, oh, the light bulb went off. I'm like, yeah, I get that. And so, many light bulb moments throughout the 2 years of this program, and really grateful for the opportunity to learn from amazing people. And one of my instructors, she had mentioned two-eyed seeing to me, and I didn't know what that was. And so she recommended books and different YouTube videos and things for me to learn. And it's the Marshalls from Mi'kmaq territory on the East Coast. And so the more I learned about it, the more I got excited because basically it was like affirming how I am as a learner, as an Indigenous person. And so it kind of helped me understand myself more. And then it also gave me more tools as I progressed on into the different courses. And so I'm really grateful for that piece. Another instructor, just really awesome, encouraging people to do things in a way that's comfortable for them. And one of my assignments, I took my phone and I went and sat in the forest and filmed and did like a presentation in the forest. And so you're just finding those places where doing things that are new, but in a comfort level that allowed me to speak my truth and speak to my topic. I can't even remember right now what the assignment was, but I was happy that, we were given that freedom. And so, I'm setting up my little stand for my phone and recording in the forest. Turned out cool. And, there's another instructor. She was just amazing, talking about intercultural competence, connecting us with some really good tools and questionnaires and assessments and all of those kinds of things. And it was really interesting because, thinking of Canada, like on a larger scale, and how, reconciliation has really been kind of pushed to the forefront. And you have so many organizations like financial institutions, businesses, universities, everybody is really committed to implementing those calls to action for truth and reconciliation, which is really amazing. And, I think Canada's kind of ahead of the game a little bit in that area because I know south of us, that country hasn't even attempted to look at the history of residential schools and the damage that was caused to Indigenous peoples. And so, I was really glad to hear from this instructor. She was in Europe, she was in the States, and then now I think she teaches at SFU. But just a really incredible woman. And the teachings that she shared with me, just really widening my perspective around intercultural competence and really keeping in mind for myself, how am I going to apply these skills after I'm finished? Because I do have my own business and all that kind of stuff. And, really taking the temperature, I guess, in society and what things are happening out there and people doing reconciliation work and, establishing frameworks and training at the beginning of employment for employees, that kind of thing, but also expanding beyond the Indigenous. That's the kind of the part that I like because it was like even more inclusive, like focusing on addressing the calls to action with truth and reconciliation, definitely important. And, looking at Canada as a whole and seeing how diverse population has become over the decades, it's, that much more important for people to understand each other. And a surprising course for me, I have to share this because there was migration diaspora studies in a global context. And I thought, what is that? And so the instructor was really good and he provided a lot of information around media and how stories are planted in and, the assumptions and all of those things and how important it is to be clear and stories that are put forward and the importance of the academic world. Being a base and a foundation for things that happen in journalism and different things in society. And it really opened my eyes. And so for one of our assignments, we were to go into community and connect with a specific diaspora. And so for, excuse me, my written assignment, I had put forward Italian days because in Vancouver, there's a big event that happens on Commercial Drive, and it's Italian Days, and it celebrates Italian community and everything to do with Italy, and that's on Commercial Drive. So I enjoyed researching that and how that event came about. And then for the next assignment in that course, I noticed in North Vancouver, there was a high population of Persian people, just beautiful people. And I thought, I really want to explore that a little bit more. And so I approached a nonprofit organization, and her and I spoke, and she was very open and willing to share information. And I was really excited and happy about getting that assignment in. But even more so, we spoke about other things, of course, beyond, the course and the interview and all of that. And, I was telling her, I have my own business and, I'm going to school right now, but, I'm really trying to figure out how all of these things are going to fit together. And we stayed in touch, and she actually contacted me and said that they were running healing circles. And would I be interested? Because there was a portion of it that was Indigenous specific. And I was like, wow, yeah, sure, okay. And so, I became involved with this nonprofit organization And I was able to deliver two segments of 6 week healing circles. And so that went earlier this year from January, February, almost, I think, into March, just because of weather and postponements of circles and that kind of thing. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. And so, I was able to put some of my skills that I've learned through this 2 year program to work in these healing circles and really promoting understanding of different cultural values and ways of being. And so relating that through Indigenous ways of being and, finding a way to have people in the circle to recognize that. And so it was really exciting and I was really happy to do that piece, but really understanding my place in all of that and my own growth and my own development through all of that. Yeah, I wasn't sure how Royal Road's experience was going to be for me, but I know a few people who had attended. And so you're really looking at it and recognizing now after completing, how this has totally changed my life and this experience and all my self-transformation. And so I'm really grateful that, my spouse at the beginning of the 2 year program just really encouraged me to throw your name in the hat and see what happens. And so, looking at my personal history, my work experience, how everything has come together. And so, I'm glad that I waited and didn't sign up for that bachelor program in business. And I went back again to look at the university's website. And then sure enough, this MAIIC program just really caught my eye. And so, going beyond what I thought I know and being willing to be the learner. And, that's easy for me. I love to learn anyway. But, having the courage to step into the academic settings again, that was quite intimidating, honestly. And so I just remember after a number of months and I thought, oh my God, what did I do? What did I sign up for? Is it too late to back out? Just the thoughts, right? And those irrational beliefs that kind of sneak into the mind. And then, being able to stop myself. And it's like, no, you got to finish what you started. You signed up for this. You can do this. And so, just motivating myself to get through this and, being encouraged by my spouse at that time and encouraged by my daughter, just really having that self-belief, I guess, and continuing forward. And what I really think is amazing, when we went for our residency at the beginning of this program, we went to Victoria and were there for a couple of weeks. And I had gone for a walk, beautiful forests around the university, and I had sat down. And for some reason, I brought my drum. I never bring my drum anywhere. And so I brought my drum and I was sitting there and a song came to me as I sat by the water. It was so amazing. And, it was all about standing in your center. And it just like, wow, you know what I mean? And, in our culture and our teachings, when you go into Mother Nature and into the forest or by the water, you may be blessed with a song. And so I really felt my late parents there with me as well. They always wanted me to go to school and I never did. And so, it was just a really emotional experience for me to just be on campus at the beginning of a 2 year program, have this song come to me. And, in our ceremonies, winter ceremony in the longhouse, when someone gets a song, you kind of have to like count the beats and, like fix the song, I guess, for lack of a better word, but really finding what the essence of the song is. And it takes practice and the rhythm comes out and the amazing drummers are able to kind of, get the beat and all of that. And I remember thinking, um, I need to go home and, have my spouse help me with the song. But then something else in the back of my mind said, no, this is your song and you're going to sing it the way that it came to you and it's fine. And I thought, well, yeah, okay, it's spring. It wasn't winter season anymore. Winter season was finished, I think, by that time. And I thought, yeah, I'm claiming full aspect of this song and how it came to me. And so on the very last day of our residency, I shared the song and I sang it for our cohort. And it was just like, wow, that just happened. But just really stepping into myself and ownership of, all of the things, my mental, emotional, physical, spiritual capacities and skills and gifts. And so, just amazing to find more of myself through this process and rely on myself and trust myself. Just like this numerology, the messages in the numerology had said, and, stand in your center and, deeper self-trust and, trust your path and all of the divine guidance. And so, I really of course, now that I'm finished, can say that I enjoyed the process and building those cultural bridges, and building understanding and, just really focused on unity and harmony and compassion and acceptance, in my history with my business, I'm always a life skills facilitator at heart anyway. And, just really looking at behaviors and which behaviors work and which behaviors can be improved and all of those kinds of things. But now looking at this from an intercultural perspective, like I'm so excited with what's ahead of me. Like I still don't have like 100% vision of what that's going to look like for me and my business or the work that I'm going to be doing. But at least I feel like, I have more tools. I'm going to be in Victoria in a few weeks for our grad ceremony. And, we get to celebrate with our cohort and our family and all of those things. But, different moments with different instructors over the 2 years were so amazing. And in one of my classes, I forgot to mention this. Um, one of the instructors, I had been talking and I had shared that I have a podcast. And so he had gone to look at my Be True to You podcast description and probably listened to some of it, but actually proposed to me to cover part of his course and record a podcast that he would use in his future courses. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. And so that was like a surprise, but I was happy to do that. And so, just honoring the knowledge about intercultural competency, research, all of the things involved with academics, and, really using dictionary.com a lot, just like really, like I don't even know what some of those words mean. And it's like, why can't they just use the easier word? But that's the world of academics, and it's just different mindset, different way of being. But what I love is that the university really promoted acknowledgement and recognizing the shift to accommodate Indigenous perspective and seeing different people working within the academic environment and seeing Indigenous people obtaining their doctorate in different areas. It's really cool. And seeing how their perspective on changing society and having research that is accessed by journalists, and all different areas, health and well-being, all of those kinds of things, and how that can guide and change how things are done out in the world and in society and all of the different silos. And so really opening my own perspective and just seeing the benefit of academics and all of that. And so, so many possibilities and really getting to know my cohort, working on projects together and those kinds of things. It was really challenging at times, but a lot of fun and, learning how to communicate with each other and, state our specific needs and how we learn and how we do things. And, just another level of teamwork and learning how to work together because we all want to do good on our assignments, right? And so just really dealing with conflict at some times and putting those conflict resolution skills to work. But, overall, supporting each other to finish in a good way, dealing with each other in a good way. And so, just really happy to say I'm finished now. And I'm excited for what is next. I'm plugging away and working on my website and just really being strategic on how I'm going to approach my work and how I work with different communities and providing my service. And, I've always been heartfelt in my commitment to achieve, any and all of the tasks that I'm meant to fulfill in my life, in my purpose and my mission. And, still trying to figure that out at times. And, again, like trusting that divine guidance, I'm doing my part and, things will show up in a way that maybe I wouldn't have imagined, better, thank you. Yes, and something better than I could have imagined. And so it's exciting seeing how communication influences culture, influences communities. And like right now, with, like I said, the high diversity in the population in Canada, building bridges, there's so much opportunity. And so I'm excited to see. How I can connect with my cohort. Once we graduate, I'm hoping to have, maybe one or two of them on as guests in future podcasts. And so I just wanted to share my experience of why I returned to school at the age of 54 and still trying to figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up. But that's okay. It's part of the fun, right? And so I, think about all my personal development and my work experience, and now with my academics, how all of those things are coming together and the path ahead of me. And so, just really recognizing, there's so many aspects of our being and bringing those all together. And I was working on medicine wheel templates and things that I've been working on for a number of years and how those puzzle pieces are all falling together. So, stay tuned, have a look at my website, robbiwilson.com. And I'm developing new things and shifting, changing, and evolving as things go on. And so, as I'm shifting, changing, learning, and evolving, my business is shifting, changing, and evolving. And so I'm happy to share my experience with you. And I hope something resonated with you. And, like I said, step outside of your comfort zone in a safe way and try something different, learn a new skill. Maybe it's not going to be university in a 2-year program, but, something different that can affect your daily life and how you live, your family and how you're showing up in the world. And just encouraging you to be your highest and best self. And like I said, I hope in the future to have some of my cohort, my classmates come on and be guests on this podcast in the future. And so, challenge your thinking, challenging your perspectives, asking those tough questions of self, and really getting to know self on a deeper level. And so, just, I encourage you to stay motivated for all of the opportunities out there. Like, there's so many opportunities out there, and, be part of the solution. And, there's things facing us in our daily life, in our family, personally, at a community level. Be part of the solution. And so, I'm grateful for this opportunity to be here, to have this platform. And I think I'm going to wind it up now. I'm really happy to be here and back again, sharing more podcasts on Be True to You. So as always, I encourage you, take what you need and leave the rest, and, come back and listen again. Maybe there's something different that you'll hear next time. So sending you lots of love. Remember, always be true to you, and we'll see you next time.